Alright, let's talk about everyone's favorite safety, Jamal Adams, a guy who I think it's fair to ask what has happened with him these past, several years at this point. Obviously, he's someone who just 3 years into his career, the Seahawks liked enough that they were willing to give up 2 first-round picks to acquire him. So what happened and why haven't we really heard his name so much? And one thing that's obviously going to have to be mentioned is he only played 15 snaps last year, so yeah, that's going to hurt. So I went back, wanted to watch some tape, and one of the things I definitely saw when watching the tape was, this is just what he is as a player. I think this play will actually really do a good job of defining what he is as a player. So what the play itself is it's a cover 2 zone, and you see where Jamal Adams is on the screen. The way it's going to work is it's going to be a running play to the offense's right. And so for Adams, since there are multiple safeties deep on this play, this means that if it is a running play, you have to be aggressive. You are the closest unblocked man at this point, and so he is going to play aggressive. Watch how when this play begins, you see him move very far in, and he, to be honest, overcommits a little. At this point, he's a little bit out of position and didn't have the best angle. I think that's totally reasonable to say. If you're a fan of Jamal Adams, you'll sit here and say, yeah, that was probably not his best angle. This is just an element of how he plays. As you see, he does do a pretty good job from that point on of still being able to knock the halfback out, but definitely gave up a decent gain, and there was even some, talking after the play, which again, a lot of people like that about Jamal Adams. He plays with a certain energy that not a lot of other players play with. When it works poorly, well, then it works poorly, but it doesn't always work poorly. Oftentimes, it can work out well. Like, let's move over to this play. What's going to happen here is it's going to be a 2 safety deep coverage once again. Again, you see where Adams is on the screen. This time, however, it is not going to be a running play. It's going to be a passing play. A lot of people don't tend to give him too much praise for what he can do in the coverage game, but I feel like his coverage is underrated. Not to say it's great or anything like that. Obviously, it's not, but I think some people act like he's a black hole in coverage. I really don't see it that way. Watch how when this play begins, it's going to be a play action this time, but Adams, stays deep, and eventually he's going to kind of, at this point, survey the field and realize what could potentially get open. There is a Denver player who has his arms, just completely up right now, saying, hey, give me the ball right here, I'm open, and Adams notices this. Again, you see him kind of, just be able to drive in, and he nearly had the interception. It actually bounced off his helmet, which, okay, you would love to see him come up with the interception for sure, but still a very good play to read it and to come in and make a play. He's a very smart player. I think, even his biggest critics acknowledge that. Very smart and can come in and make plays at key moments for sure. And you also have stuff like this, where it's going to be zone coverage, and he is the strong safety in this cover 3 zone. We're now going to tape from 2021, because last year, like I said, those first 2 plays, I had 15 snaps to choose from, found a couple of notable plays, but, wanted to watch some more tape, so we're going back a year, where, he's able to do stuff like this, where you see on the screen how this play can work. It's zone coverage, and it's kind of designed to get Adams out of position a little bit, where you have a tight end who's going to run into Adams' zone, but then you also are going to have it's a different tight end actually who's going to run underneath, and that's the player that they're going to try to throw to. Watch how when this play begins, I think a lot of lesser safeties in this spot would get more out of position. I think Adams does a good job at reading these plays and being able to, notice which position he should get into and things like that. Watch as you see the ball is going to be flipped, but Adams reads it well, and he's able to come in and still make an immediate tackle. These are the things that Jamal Adams is capable of, in my opinion, is he can do stuff like this. Again, I think he makes his reads very well and comes in and makes tackles very well. Even something like this, which again, it's going to be in the running game. And again, he is a deep safety on this play, but this is where his kind of explosiveness and his quick decision-making really comes through, where it's going to be a run to the top of the screen. And watch how good of a job he does at reading that. Once again, as you notice, the run goes in that direction, and Adams is able to run up and make an immediate tackle. These are the kind of things that Jamal Adams is capable of, and it's, in my opinion, very impressive that he is able to do this stuff consistently. So then let's talk about the kind of the trade and the other stuff about it. In my opinion, he is still a very good player. Now, again, didn't play at all last year, But if you want to look at his Pro Football Focus grades, this is where I think we really see the pros and the cons of Adams. He does a lot of nice things, but some issues on his tape as well. His PFF grades, you might notice that there has been a drop-off these past 3 years. Obviously, okay, good 15 snaps last year. Don't pay too much attention to that. But in 2021 and in 2020, we saw a significant step back from Adams than we saw from 2019 and 2018, specifically in the coverage category, as he was legitimately a great coverage safety with the Jets, not counting his rookie year, but the next 2 years was really good. But then, with the 2 years that he's been in Seattle, that he's gotten significant playing time, he's been below mediocre in that area. And I kind of agree. Again, this is the kind of thing of Adams, and kind of what we all talked about once the trade happened was, okay, Adams, he's a very good player, but this is still a bit of a surprise. Why did the Jets go out why did the Seahawks go out and trade 2 first-round picks for a player who doesn't really fit their scheme? That was a big thing that was talked about, is, Todd Bowles, when he was, the head coach of the Jets, and he sort of, told Adams what to do, did a very good job at kind of letting Adams be the guy over the middle who's, when he's playing coverage, it's usually just covering a tight end, or oftentimes not designed to cover anybody, just sort of hovering over the middle of the field and just go make plays happen. And he's incredible at that stuff. He's not bad at just being a zone safety. He can come in and still add value those ways. Is still a smart player, and I think that he's still an effective player, even if you make him a free safety. But he's just not as valuable at that spot. And it was such a weird fit for a team like Seattle, who doesn't really mix things up a lot, doesn't play a lot of cover one robbers the way that the Jets would with Adams there, and have Adams be the, hey, go screw up the play type guy. And it does make me wonder, again, why did they make this decision? Now, one thing I would say that I think is reason to get optimistic if you're a Seahawks fan is, they've gotten much better corners in 2022, and they just drafted another one for 2023. So that could kind of free him up a little bit potentially to go up and make more plays. And the Seahawks last year, I thought, did a better job at sort of mixing stuff up, playing more different coverages, which could definitely mean that Adams could also be able to come in and make more plays. They're paying Jamal Adams a good chunk of money, and the reality is it would actually cost $5 million if they wanted to cut him this year, and next year would only save $9 million to cut him, and you'd have $14 million on the dead cap. So I think he's here for another 2 years, but at the same time, the guy's 27 years old. He's not washed up. He still is what he is, assuming that there's no lingering issues from the injury, which I very much hope there isn't. Adams is still an effective player, I think, in the NFL, and I do feel like just because he's been used incorrectly at times by the Seahawks isn't a knock on him. And just because the Seahawks gave up 2 first-round picks for a safety, which is usually not a great idea, that's also not a knock on him. He still can be great when he's used correctly. He just isn't always used correctly, and hopefully for Seattle, they start using him a little bit better. But again, are they going to completely shift the way they run their scheme? Probably not, but I still think Adams is an effective player. Just kind of goes to show how important it is to, how important scheme fit really is, and maybe it might be better off to trade him to a team that could use him properly, perhaps. I don't know. But yeah, those are my thoughts. What are yours? Let me know in the comments below. Always love hearing from you. And of course, as always, thanks for watching.